This is Barbara with Cana Girl Speaks podcast. My voice, your voice. Good evening, everybody. This is Barbara with the Cana Girl Speaks podcast, and I am so excited to be recording on this cold evening. But I want to welcome this young man. I want to say thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be on the podcast. So I'm going to introduce you to him. And his name is Dakari Davis. And I'm glad that he stopped by to be on the Cana Girl Speaks podcast. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a topic that's been kind of out in the atmosphere, I want to say. And it's called the Crown Act. And some of you may be familiar with the Crown Act. And so I'm going to have Dakari first introduce himself, tell a little bit about himself, and then we'll kind of go into the conversation about the Crown Act. So Dakari, why don't you tell the audience, those that are watching and those that are listening, who Dakari Davis is?
Well, hello everybody. My name's Dakari Davis. I'm actually born here in Dallas, Texas, but I don't necessarily claim that. I was raised in California.
Okay, Kelley, Kelley.
From the IE, Inland Empire, Mobile. So I was raised out there in California. I'm married to a nice, beautiful woman, and I have a 4-year-old son. I am a police officer here in Texas, in the Texas-Dallas area. I was a police explorer in California from age 14 to 18 before I got hired on with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department out there. And before I moved here and got hired at a local agency in the Dallas area.
Okay, well, Dakari, I wanted to bring you on to talk about the Crown Act. And so those that are not familiar with the Crown Act, why don't you explain to those that are watching and those that are listening what the Crown Act is?
So the Crown Act is an acronym that stands for creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. What it is legislation that's recently in the last couple of years have been really kind of going viral and hitting all the states. I think it's been passed in about 14 states now.
Uh-huh.
And they have a lot of other states that have currently filed the bills that have not passed just yet. And we even have some federal legislation that's been filed in the House and Senate.
So how did you get on this plight to help get the Crown Act passed, especially here in Texas?
That's a pretty interesting story. As long as I can remember growing up, all the men in my family have long hair. When I was a young kid, I had long hair. I did cut my hair when I was younger to be a part of the Explorer program. That was a requirement. When I moved to Texas and got hired on here after having my son, the topic kind of came back up in our household as what we were going to do with his hair. I checked my department's policies and procedures, and it said that the hair had to be neat, well-groomed, and off the collar.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike my previous agency, their policies specified, that cornrows were prohibited.
Mm-hmm.
So based on my department's policies, I believe that the hairstyle was in compliance, and so I grew my hair back out and braided my hair on a family vacation, took some family photos with my son, and when I came back to work, I was met with a little opposition.
Mm-hmm.
There were some people who agreed that it looked nice and professional and well-groomed, and there were others who didn't. And so eventually that led to a formal complaint with our Internal Affairs Division and led me on about a year kind of suspension type deal where I was actually off work on paid administrative leave. And it was just God's timing, I guess you can say, that right around that time was the time when the Crown Act started buzzing.
Yeah.
The talk started buzzing. There were different things that were happening actually here locally in Texas. I believe it's DeAndre Arnold, high school student who the school district said he had to cut his dreadlocks in order to graduate, walk across the stage. a young kid named Maddox in Houston as well. Tink and his grandmother were going through some things. These were all local here in Texas, in the Houston area, and so that conversation started buzzing and started happening, and it made it back to my employer. Eventually, I reached out to my commissioner, John Wiley Price, who intervened on my behalf as I'm one of his constituents, and he took care of it.
Okay. So as far as the Crown Act, where is it in the state of Texas as far as the act? Has it passed? Are you still working on trying to get it passed? What's going on with it right now?
So what happened was last session, Texas meets every 2 years. Every 2 years is when the House and Senate meet here in Texas at the Capitol. So last session, I actually was contacted by Representative Bowers, who actually co-authored the bill that was filed here in Texas at the last session, and we went down to the Capitol and we held a press conference there, with the goal of getting that bill out of the committee. The committee had to vote on it and pass it out of the committee so that it can get onto the floor for a floor vote in order to pass. And so one of the amazing things about that experience was after we held that press conference that day, the chairman of the committee put it to a vote, and it was approved with no opposition. And they put it immediately on the House calendar. So what ended up happening was, because it was so late in the session, unfortunately, they didn't have enough time to get to that bill.
Yeah.
And so it kind of died there.
Oh, okay.
But I did speak with Ms. Bowers' chief of staff earlier today, and they definitely have plans on refiling that bill this session in November. And so we're going to get there early.
That's good.
And make sure that there is nothing but time for y'all to hear this bill, okay? Because we're not going to stop.
Yes. Yeah. So how can like a local community, small communities, how can they get involved with helping the Crown Act get passed?
So I encourage everyone to go to thecrownact.com. It's co-sponsored by Dove. And if you go to that website, there's a petition there for you to sign. There's also a link for you to find your senator. Contact your senator. Pick up the phone, call them. Let them know that this is important to you and that you want them to support the Crown Act and get it passed here in Texas and on a federal level as well.
So you think you'll be going around in different communities and just kind of spreading the message? Because some communities may not know that you guys are working toward trying to get this act passed. I mean, how do you get the word out, as far as letting, those in the communities know, hey, we have opportunity to get something passed like this?
In today's times, it's so social media.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, I'm just now getting back hip to this.
Yeah.
It wasn't until after I did my interview with Tashara at WFAA and that I was not into social media at all. And I remember everyone calling me, hey, man, have you seen your interview? Hey, man, did you see the interview? I'm like, nah, man, I haven't really seen it yet. Man, you got to get on Facebook. Yeah. So I feel that doing what we're doing right now, the podcast, the interviews, all of those things, getting the word out on social media seems to be how everyone communicates and how everyone gets the information now. And so I am always willing to come and have these conversations. They're uncomfortable at times, but they're well needed.
So how do you make our young people understand the power of a voice?
I mean, I feel that look at me. I went from having a career where I had no prior major disciplinary history or anything like that. Just showed up as my natural self with my natural hair, and it was stripped like that. But however, by coming out and sharing my story and telling my story, I gained so much support from the community that it was really a pivotal point in where I could have been terminated.
Yeah.
where everything was moving in that direction. But because I shared that story and came forth with that information, it allowed others to assist me and help me. And sometimes you can't do everything on your own.
Yeah.
We have to stand together.
Yeah.
And so I encourage everybody that might be experiencing some of those same things that I've experienced or anybody else has to come forward, share your stories, and allow the community to come and stand with you. You know, we're far more stronger in numbers.
Yeah. Do you think that a lot of the laws that are in the books are dated?
They
Like,
are.
yeah.
And that is one of the biggest challenges I would say of the Crown Act is it's difficult to get someone to support a cause that they really don't have any connection to
Yeah.
or understanding of, and they haven't had that experience. So they don't really know the feeling of showing up to work or showing up to school and having someone tell them, hey, I don't like your appearance. I don't
Yeah.
like your hair.
Yeah.
Um, one of the ladies that actually went with us to the Capitol, she got to speak on the floor that helped get this out of the committee, and I remember her telling the committee, "What if I required a dress code policy that required you to wear curly hair, to have kinky hair, to have braids, or to dread your hair? What type of chemicals would you have to do to your hair and put on your hair to comply with that policy?" And I think that was very powerful because that allowed them the opportunity to feel
To kind of
how
understand.
a lot of African Americans feel when you're requiring us to have straight hair.
Yeah.
You're altering something that our hair is not naturally able to do.
Yeah.
And so these policies that are created, unfortunately, have been created by people who don't really understand that. And I think that it's up to us to explain that in a way that they do understand and they can relate with the problem.
Yeah.
And with that understanding, hopefully they'll be willing to make the necessary adjustments and pass this bill.
And just having the conversation, having the conversation that there are different cultures, and that, like you said, we do our hair differently. And so just having that conversation to get an understanding of, how our hair is and stuff like, and things like that, and so do you think it's just very important to have a voice, especially because you want to really encourage our young people, you know, that that's how things change. That's how laws
Yeah.
get passed, by just that one voice.
It is. I mean, it's as simple as a lot of people don't know that you can just go to your Capitol. You can just go to the Capitol, sign up, take your COVID test, and you got to wait till your results go back. Then they let you in, and you can go and meet your representatives and talk with them, and let them know the issues that are important to you.
Yeah.
And that is really how a lot of things are getting passed and getting done. You
Yeah.
got to make them calls. You got to go and conversate with people.
So when are you guys going to start really, like you said, getting back the momentum of getting ready to, because the legislators can probably get ready to meet,
Right. So we're already starting. You see me here on the Cana Girls podcast. You can catch me on a couple clips with WFAA. Check out Tashara Parker's her Rooted series. This is their second segment, second season. So check that out. It's gonna continuously buzz.
That's good.
And we're gonna continuously be putting that information out and the word out. As far as the law is concerned, the Crown Act. Like I said, I did speak with Miss Bowers, Chief of Staff. They are already making plans to refile that bill.
That's good.
In November, and we'll have I think it's a day of action, which they're going to schedule sometime in January, where we'll go back down to the Capitol and get started, boots on the ground early.
That's good. So you think you'll have a big following to go? Because sometimes that works when you have a big crowd of people to go and show support.
I definitely think so. I believe. I mean, I have gotten so many people have reached out to me via social media, messaging from all over the world, actually. even they had ran my article in French.
Oh, wow.
So that was amazing. So there's so many people out here, even in Texas locally, that have reached out and support. Other officers have reached
Yeah.
out to me. Um, even a local chief of police had sent a memo to his entire agency to let them know that, hey, if anyone ever thought that it might be an issue, it's not.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not for that agency.
So do you think that the Crown Act would be just this whole discussion will be just a, just something, we won't even have to discuss it anymore. It'll be just,
I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say
I
that?
wouldn't say that. I think there's definitely a lot of people who might not understand,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, just because of that lack of understanding,
Yeah.
they can't get past what they see.
Yeah.
And so because of their personal biases, and unfortunately those people who are in the positions to create these policies and procedures, that have those biases, it really impacts their organization.
Yeah.
So I think it is definitely a conversation that's going to continuously have to happen.
Yeah.
Even after, I do believe the bill will pass here in Texas. I have faith that it'll pass here in Texas. I believe our representatives in Texas want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think once it passes on a federal level, it kind of forces people to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And if they're not in compliance, then there's other, actions that can be taken. But the conversation is going to have to continue.
Yeah. And I just say don't give up. I mean, I think about Miss Opal Lee. She kept going. She kept going. And then now we have Juneteenth as a holiday.
I found out something interesting today. The the texting and driving laws. It took Texas 10 years to pass that law.
Really?
10 years. It took 5 sessions to pass that law. And when you think about it, it's common sense.
Yeah.
It seems, now it just seems like common sense. Hey, you don't text and drive.
Yeah.
But it took us that long to enact that change. And so what I'm hoping is that we have a progressive session who understands that it's needed and it's needed now.
Yeah. Oh,
and
wow.
So that's going to be up to all of us to make them calls.
Yes, make the calls.
And let them know that, hey, this is an issue in our area.
Yeah.
And we are holding you guys accountable to address this and make this right.
Well, it's going to take the voices of, like you said, the constituents. And so you just make, if you feel like you want to be on this, on this journey with them as far as getting the Crown Act passed, like he said, call your local legislator, representative, and tell them, hey, we want it to pass, this next session. So, Dakari, I want to say thank you so much for coming down to be on the Cana Girl Speaks podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited for you, and I'm looking forward to hearing it when they go and vote that it's gonna pass. I do believe that you guys have really worked hard in this past year, to be a voice, and just let those that are out there listening, those that are watching, we all have voices, and so if there's anything that you feel like you want to fight for it, and so I always give my guests an opportunity to give a shout out to anybody that they'd like to give a shout out to. So who'd you like to give a shout out to?
You know what? I'm gonna give a shout out to my wife, Krista. I shout her out because you know what? Out of everybody, that is one woman that has supported me through this entire journey. Through the ups, the downs, the entire roller coaster. We've been together 15 years now, and it takes a strong woman to be by your side during these times.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of other people who are going through the same things that I went through.
Yeah.
And it definitely helped to have somebody like her standing right there saying, hey, regardless what happens, I got you.
All right.
So shout out to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for just just thank you for the the fight that you have in you, and just keep going. And I know you have a big support system, and so like I said, I look forward to hearing them say that it'll pass, So
thank you.
Anyway, but to my listening audience, thank you always for supporting the Cana Girl Speaks podcast. Just continue to support it and be safe. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. But thank you again. Have a great week. and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
This is a Legacy Recording Studio production.